So I want to start with a question. Why do people come to meetings? Shout stuff out. Why did you come today? Education. Networking. Benchmarking, great, good one.
Gain ideas.
To get ideas. What else? To learn. Business, hopefully do some new business. All kinds of reasons why people come to meetings. I have kind of disseminated those down into 5 different reasons that all begin with C, so it's easier for me to remember. So those are community, networking, right? Number 1 reason people come to conferences, networking. Content, which you mentioned, of course, and the panel mentioned as well. Collaboration, where we actually get to talk to other people and exchange ideas, right? Celebration, we're going to do that tonight on the rooftop in the, is it called the Lunar Lounge? Lunar Lounge? Sounds very cool. And to change something about your job or your life. If you think about it, we come to meetings and then we leave different. We leave a different person than who showed up. Am I right? You may not change in a huge way, but you come here and you get an idea, or you meet someone, or maybe you're looking for a new job and you find a connection. Something is going to change you today during the space of this conference. So change is another reason why we come to these things. But if I were to tell you that one of these is going away, which one would you guess? Nobody wants to say. I'll say. Would you be surprised? Huge, right? I mean, content is huge. I'm not trying to tell you that content is going to disappear. Agendas will never disappear. Speakers won't disappear. It's not going away completely. It's changing because we've never lived in a time where content is more readily available to us, right? If it were just about the content, we would all stay home and look at the internet. We would get a book. We would watch a webinar. So content is readily available. So it can't just be about that anymore, right? It's how we deliver the content. It's how we collaborate around the content. And it's the community together. You all came here to learn together, to experience this together. So straight up content can't be our sole focus anymore. So we have to think differently. And what people are looking for, the panel said this beautifully, conversations and experiences. So we deliver those 5 C's differently today. We have to, right? Otherwise people will stay home. They don't need to come to get their education. So how do we attract people to our meetings, and how do we give them what they want? So we talked about ROI as being something that everybody looks for when they're hosting a meeting. Well, what do you all look for? So you gave up a day at work to be here, right? You gave up time. Time is money. Time is important today. Time is everything today. So what are you looking for as you sit in this audience? I call it ROA, which is a return on your attention. Your attention is the most precious thing that I have as a speaker, as a planner, as a host. Your attention. If I lose it, I've lost you, I've lost your interest, and I've lost your willingness to probably come back. And what happens when I've lost your interest? What do you reach for? Your phone, right? And then I really have lost you. Your phone. Okay, I'm standing up here. I'm just one person with one idea to share, and maybe an hour to do it. And then the next person after me, and the next person after me. If we are not engaging enough to you, you have maybe a polite few minutes that you'll give me, and then as a speaker, and my fellow speakers can vouch for this, we know when you reach for the phone, and you're doing the thing under the table where you're like, yeah, we know that, and we know we've lost you. So we have to do something more engaging than just deliver content at you today. It has to be different. So this is the time machine from H.G. Wells. So I want to take us on a journey back in time. I'm going to show you where we've been, and then we're going to take a journey through where we are today. And then my fellow speakers are going to take you on a journey into the future. Sound good? Okay. So I want to start with Meetings 1.0. This is the way meetings always used to be. Meetings 1.0, back in the day, 50s, 1960s, 70s, 80s, and I call this your grandfather's meetings. Your grandfather's meeting went something like this. They would show up, they would sit politely for 8, 9, 10 hours, they would listen, and then they would leave. There wasn't a whole lot of interaction. There certainly weren't beanbags. But audiences could tolerate that. They had longer attention spans than we have today. They were more polite with their attention to a speaker than we are able to be today because we have so many things pulling at our attention, correct? So audiences were different back then. Meetings were different back then. They didn't have to do so much to hold your attention. There wasn't that much competition for your attention, for mind share. So we know the span of a goldfish. The goldfish has an attention span of about 9 seconds. Do you know what the average human being has today? 8 seconds. We're worse than goldfish. This is a challenge for event planners, right? And especially, how many of you can do just one thing at a time for an hour? Think about your day. How many of you, raise your hands, can you do one thing without interruption, without your mind wandering for an hour? Nobody? Look how slow this is. I've already lost your attention, haven't I? Right? You're already thinking, oh my gosh, this is painfully slow. Really? That's 8 seconds. Right? We don't have time, we don't have tolerance for this. How many of you have children? Anybody have a 10-year-old boy? Anybody, oh, you have a 10-year-old boy? Anybody ever been a 10-year-old boy? Right, okay. Hopefully all the men raised your hand. Okay, so I want you to think of your audience going forward as full of 10-year-old boys. Can your 10-year-old boy sit still for an hour and listen to someone talk at them? Could he do it? Not a chance, right? He's on to 20 different things while I'm still up here blathering on about whatever. Can't do it. Neither can all of you. So inside each of you is a 10-year-old boy dying to get out and do something more interesting if I'm just up here talking at you. So we can't do that anymore for 8 straight hours. We can't even do it for 8 seconds. So I'm taking you through 1.0 and the way that it used to be forever, and I'm going to put you through a little exercise. Okay, so I'm going to split the room in thirds. So this third, from Julius over, everybody take out your phone, please. You are going to act like millennials, Generation Y, in this exercise, okay? So you all put on your under 35 years old mindset and take out your phone, please. You're going to need it. Okay. Then from this kind of middle of the room, you are my people. You're Generation X. You were raised in the 80s, right? Woohoo. Okay, so Generation X, you're going to need a piece of paper. Grab a piece of paper. There's some by the doors if you don't have one, or borrow one from a neighbor, but you're going to be taking notes. And over here, you are my lovely baby boomers. You're the oldest generation in the workforce right now. And you are my polite listeners. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. Now, don't start until I tell you to, but I'm going to put you through an exercise. Now, my Generation Y, my millennials over here, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to be up here talking about the most boring thing in the world, which you're going to decide what that is. I don't know what it's going to be yet. It's going to be horribly boring. And you all, your minds are going to wander, and you're going to be looking up something on your phone. So let's figure out what you all are going to research. Name a country, a really obscure country. Azerbaijan. Okay, that's one I can't even spell that. Okay, good luck with this. You are going to, when the time comes, not yet, put your phone down. When the time comes and your mind wanders, you are going to figure out who is the current leader of Azerbaijan, how long have they been in power, and what is their primary export. Sound good? Not yet. Okay, Generation X. When your mind wanders, we're the list makers. Who here is really a Generation X? Do you still make lists? Right? It's hard to make a list on my phone. I'm trying. But the tactile thing of writing it down, so we're the list takers. So split that piece of paper into 2 columns. On the left, name a sport. How about auto racing? I don't know. Okay, so write down auto racing. And name like a household object.
Clock.
A clock? Okay, write a clock on the other side, the other column. When I say go and not yet, there's no cheating. Because there will be prizes. I forgot to mention, there will be prizes for the winner of each of these. When I say go and not before, you're going to start writing down everything you can think of in these 2 columns about auto racing and about clocks. Anything that your mind comes up with, okay? And the baby boomers, you are known for your polite listening. You are the politest, most well-raised generation in our current workforce. You have the ability to listen politely longer than the other generations. But it doesn't mean your mind still doesn't wander, right? I'm going to be so boring up here, your mind's going to wander and you're going to think about, what's today, Tuesday? Okay, you're going to host a party, a dinner party at your house this weekend, and you need to think of the menu. It's going to be 5 courses, and you're going to need to think about what your menu is going to be and what you need to shop for, okay? Okay, not yet. Don't get started yet. Okay, what is the most boring topic you can think of for a conference? VAT? VAT taxes? Oh my gosh, we don't have those in the US. I don't know much about it, so this ought to be fun. Okay, welcome to the VAT Tax Conference. Are you ready for the most boring speaker in the world? Okay, when I introduce myself at the podium, at the lectern here, you are going to start letting your mind wander and do your exercises, okay? Here we go. Welcome to the conference on VAT taxes. My name is Shawna Suckow, and I am the foremost leading expert on VAT taxes. And I'm going to talk to you today for the next 3 hours about how VAT taxes were founded. Let's start with ancient Rome. Back in 432 BC, the emperor decided that visitors to Rome needed to pay taxes. So he engaged one of his gladiators to enforce the very first world VAT tax. And his name was Cornelius van Hosenfelter, and he enlisted a whole army of gladiators to enforce the VAT tax, and their robes were like this puce color, and that's how you knew when they were coming to collect the VAT tax. It was the puce gladiators force. And so again, 432 BC. So by 425 BC, they had this great VAT tax system going. And I cannot talk about this anymore because I'm boring myself. Are you ready for me to stop? Okay, thank you. Okay, now, just to prove my point, and I do have a point here. So my millennials, who came up with all of the answers? Raise your hand. Okay, you sir on the left here, on my left. Who is the leader of Azerbaijan? Okay, actually, one second. Who's seen the Catchbox? Love me the Catchbox. I'm gonna attempt to throw this to you and not hurt the man behind you who has a camera. So I'm gonna get as close as possible. Okay. Who, not bad. Okay, who is the leader of Azerbaijan?
Ilham Aliyev.
Okay, and hold it up a little closer. And how long has he been in power? Hold it up to your mouth. No, to your mouth, the black part.
Oh, okay.
Perfect, okay.
2003.
2003. What else did you look up? What is the...
His maximum export, Azerbaijan's maximum export is crude oil.
Crude oil is their major export.
Yeah.
Okay, What was the name of the guy who founded the VAT tax?
No idea.
Don't answer, don't help him. Okay. Thank you, I'll take that back. I can't catch, yeah, okay. Thank you, very kind, okay. Who came up with, my Generation X people, who came up with more than 20 things total? Anybody? More than 30? Anybody more than, oh, you, sir.
You mean for each or for both together?
Total combined. You did? Okay. I'm going to throw this to you. I'm warning you in advance. Sorry, guy behind him. Okay, good thing it's soft. Okay. So, how many things did you come up with?
About 22, 23.
22 or 23. Name 3 things about auto racing that came out of your brain.
Going round and round, security, pit garages, motorbikes, yes.
Fantastic. What was the name of the guy who invented the VAT tax?
No clue. I know
Okay.
he's a gladiator.
Okay. He was a gladiator. Okay. Well, nice. Okay. You can toss it. Thank you, sir. Okay. Boomers. Who came up with a fabulous menu? Who's excited about the imaginary party, right? It's going to be great. Okay. What's your 5-course menu?
All right, we'll start off with some sushi platters. Followed
Excellent.
by nice pumpkin soup. Then we'll have a filet mignon, wagyu filet mignon, followed by a lemon sorbet, and to end with a chocolate lava.
Oh my gosh, and what's your address? You're not going to tell me. Smart man. Thank you. Okay, and who was the gentleman who founded the VAT tax back in Rome? Cornelius. I'm glad you remember. I couldn't even remember. I was so bored. My point is this. We all, regardless of what generation you really affiliate yourselves with, whether you're a smartphone or whether you're a note taker or whether you're a polite listener, we don't have the bandwidth to listen to this for 8 hours anymore. Can't stand it, right? And our minds wander really, really well. Really well. And then, are you getting your return on attention for being here? If you're listening to that for 8 hours? No. Will you come back next year? If that's the speaker, I wouldn't. So my point is that we have to do better. We cannot bore people to death with a one-way dissemination of information for an entire day. There has to be more. I'll show you a little video.
If I want to sleep, I'll go there. And if I want to read, I'll have this in my chair. And if I want to hear a monotonous drone, I'll ask a politician about free trade zones. And if I want charts, I'll read the S&P. And if I want words, I'll tune in Kanye or Jay-Z. You think I'm paying attention? Well, get inside my head. I feel like the zombies in the dawn of the dead. It's inhuman.
It's a crime.
It's so painful, I got a brain full. They ought to throw you in the joint, cause you're killing me with your PowerPoint.
Anybody ever experienced death by PowerPoint? Right, okay. Our boomers back in the day maybe could sit through 8 hours of this, but the rest of us, even boomers today, can't take it. We can't take it. So we have to mix up our agendas. We have to do something different. How much fun does it look like these ladies are having? And gentlemen? Do they look engaged? Do they look like they're attentive? Do you think they're writing down doodles? Do you think they're on their smartphones? I mean, they're trying so hard to be engaged, but in this type of format, interest goes down, attention goes down, participation, there is none. And so their learning retention goes down. We know now so much more about adult learning theory than we did before. So if people are indeed coming still for content and we're not making it collaborative and participatory and it's not engaging, they're not going to have the attention span to sit through it. They're not going to absorb. They're not going to retain. They're not coming back. This is a challenge for our industry. And this is all in the past 10 years. This is all new. So Meetings 1.0 is what I've been talking about and what I just showed you up here. Lecture. It's lecture. Meetings 2.0. We as speakers and event planners realized, okay, the audience wants more. We have to give them more. Attention spans are shortening. We have to make this more participatory. So we evolved to Meetings 2.0. And what that meant was there became this power struggle between the audience and the speaker. You no longer tolerated Meetings 1.0. You had evolved. You got your smartphone or whatever. But who remembers, I'm going to go back to this slide, who's willing to admit that they're of a certain age where they remember the beginning of the internet? Who remembers getting online for the very first time? Okay, let me explain it to the rest of you who weren't around for this. This was quite a thing. So the year for me was probably, I don't know, 89, 90, I would say, somewhere around in there. And America Online, AOL, was the big deal. It was the only game in town, and they sent out CDs to everybody that you see in the upper right here. 100 free hours of internet. That's like 4 days today, am I right? But we were like, 100 hours, this is amazing. And so we put in that CD to our computers to load the internet for the very first time. And we'd have to unplug our phone and plug in our modem. Who remembers this? Okay. And we'd load the CD, and it took like 8 hours. I'm not kidding. And then 8 hours later, the internet was loaded on our machines, and it was amazing. There were like 12 websites. It was crazy. Who remembers getting their very first email? Wow. We would get like 5 in a day, and it was like a party. And we responded to every single email, right? So Meetings 2.0 is a reflection of what our culture was doing at that time. Everything started becoming two-way, right? Everything was not just a one-way interaction, it became two-way. I could send an email to you, and you would respond in like 3 days. That was really cool. Quicker than mail, right? So this changed our culture. The internet absolutely changed our culture. We became a lot more fast-moving, or so we thought, back in 1989, 90. And it changed us, and therefore it changed our meetings, and it changed our tolerance for just sitting there and being talked at. We wanted more. We wanted a two-way conversation, thus the power struggle between speaker and audience, between event planner and what the audience really wanted. So we had to get creative, and that's where knowing your audience comes in.
So it seems pretty clear that buying lottery tickets is not a good business plan. It's weird. So, very fun. Let's continue. We got a lot to get through. All right, if we look to the other sections, it was like, okay, come on, guys.
So, I don't mean to say this, well, maybe I mean to say this. Picture yourself now, you evolved from a 10-year-old boy to a monkey with a laser pointer. Sometimes do you wish you could just jump up in your chair and go, stop, you're so boring, right? So the audience evolved. They want to take the power from that boring guy at the lectern. So the power struggle became real, and we started to adapt. And wonderful things have happened since that time, such as the catch box. This means that I no longer just talk at you. I'm including you in my keynote. I'm including you in that. You have a voice. And so we're talking back and forth. I ask you questions, you respond. And so it was a lot more engaging, wasn't it, than the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes where I was just yapping at you? It became more engaging. There was laughter. You guys got to share your ideas. Far more engaging than me just talking up here by myself. So Meetings 2.0 also uses things like Slido, which we're using today. It's a way for you to have a voice in things, for this to matter. Can we bring up the house lights? Another way is a simple show of hands. It doesn't have to be super technological. So how many of you have been in the industry for at least 5 years? 10 years? 15 years? 20 years? Okay, I'll only go to 25. 25? Please stand for applause. Thank you. See how I just broke up the monotony? And I've been breaking it up as we evolve to Meetings 2.0. I've been breaking up with your attention span to keep re-engaging you with video or with a show of hands or applause. We're recognizing someone. We did the catchbox thing. So we're evolving into better meetings that are going to hold your attention better. And it can be as simple, as I said, with just a simple show of hands. It does not have to use a bunch of technology, but it certainly can, depending on the demographic of your audience. Who's sitting in the audience? Are they techie? Are they not? What do they want? That's the question you have to ask. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So meetings 3.0, we've arrived. The future is here. Meetings 3.0, what does that mean? Well, 1.0 was the one-way talking at you, your grandfather's meeting. 2.0, with the dawn of the internet, became you guys wanted more. So we started having this actual dialogue, me and you. 3.0 is where we are today and where we will be going forward. Participatory meetings. This is where conversations and experiences come in. Why? Because you all in the audience have way, way, way more knowledge on events than one person standing at the front of the room ever could. So this is where the beauty of collaboration around the content comes into play. And if we do it right, everybody gets their return on attention, everybody leaves with something, and everybody feels involved and included. So 3.0 has evolved us. It's evolved our audiences. Why? Smartphones. Oh my gosh, this is our competition now. When I count to 5, I want you to be holding at least one device that you brought with you in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? I'm now 5 seconds away from losing you. 5 seconds. And event planners, you're 5 seconds away at any given time from losing your audience, naturally, because their attention spans are shorter if we're not engaging them differently. And the best way to make sure everybody's engaged and nobody picks up their phone is to have them include themselves in conversations with their colleagues who are at that meeting. So audiences have evolved thanks to smartphones. We want more. We want more than a one-way. We want more than a two-way conversation. We want this to be collaborative and participatory so we can stay engaged, because it's hard today to stay engaged. So I am now going to ask everybody to stand up and get into groups of 4 with people you do not know at all. Groups of 4, please. Everybody stand. Okay, introduce yourselves around, get to know each other.
Setup, which I would recommend, so we can have long, boring conversations with each other.
Okay, if I may interrupt your introductions. And this group right here, if I can have your attention, please. Shh. We've got 2 and 2. Can you form a group of 4? Perfect. How were those introductions? Were they good? No, they weren't. They were terrible. Why? Do you know this person any better than you did 30 seconds ago, really?
Yeah.
Do you trust them? They're complete strangers, right? Okay. Shh. Here's what happens when I meet somebody new at any conference. What do? Name, company, where you're from. It's all there on your badge, but we do it anyway. Hi, Shawna Suckow, I'm from Spin. I'm out of Minnesota in the US. What do you pick up on from that may be of interest to you? Well, in the US, people pick up on Minnesota because it is one of the coldest states. And so when I meet anybody new, 90% of them go, oh, Minnesota, sure is cold there, huh? Yes. Yes, it is. Now, when you leave your country and you go someplace else with different weather and they go, oh, you're from the UAE. Wow, must be hot there, huh? Are you tired of talking about the weather? Do you want maybe a little bit more? This is not engaging yet. We're getting there. It's not there yet. Now what I want you to do is I want you to talk in your group and exchange a budget tip. We're all industry people, so this is a great conversation for us. How can somebody save money these days? What's a good budget tip? So just talk for a few minutes amongst yourselves. Let's get to know each other a little better, get to know our brains, etc. Go ahead. Okay, if I may interrupt you and get your attention, remain in your groups, remain standing. Shh. Who got a new idea? Right, raise your hand if you got a new idea. That was 2 minutes. 2 minutes and you already got value for coming here today by talking to each other. So why is this important? Because learning from each other, those conversations and experiences are what audiences want today more than anything. This is how we deliver those 5 C's that I talked about. Through this as a component of your meeting. This doesn't have to be the whole 8 hours of your day. That would be exhausting. But this is a great way for people to connect. And when they connect, here's the tip. If people make 8 new connections at your conference, they are more likely to return the next year. They're more likely to rate your conference higher, and they're more likely to be overall more satisfied with it, and their learning retention goes up. Can you imagine? Their learning retention goes up if they meet 8 new people. And so this type of thing is great to do early on at a conference so that people feel like they belong. Now, believe it or not, I'm an introvert, and I speak at a lot of conferences where I don't know a soul. And it is painful for me to walk up to a group of strangers and just insert myself into their conversation. I make myself do it so I feel some sort of connection. But purposeful, strategic participation in conversations like this include everybody, including the introverts. How many here have been in the industry less than 3 years? Raise your hand. Okay, introverts, first-time attendees. We're all first-time attendees at this conference because it's new, but introverts, first-time attendees, and newcomers to the industry are the 3 categories of people who are more likely to never come back unless you engage them early because they feel out of place. So this type of thing is beautiful. Small groups so nobody feels intimidated. Everybody has a voice. Can we do better? You bet we can do better. So now I want to introduce you to a great exercise of mine I call 60 Seconds of Misery. Who's in? All right, okay. Wow, you guys are gluttons for punishment. Okay, 60 Seconds of Misery goes like this. Now, you already have met these people. You've gotten to know a little bit about how their brain works, and you've established a basic opinion of them, but you still don't know a lot about them, right? You may think, oh, that person's smart, or that person's more experienced, less experienced than I am. Basic opinion. Let's go a little deeper. What I'm going to have you do, I'm going to actually set a timer. Everyone in your group will have a full 60 seconds to themselves, and you are going to brag about yourself. Not enough time? I like you. Okay. Now, who's going to struggle with this activity? Obviously, introverts are going to have a challenge with this. Women and baby boomers. And this changes culturally depending on where you are, but those are the 3 groups that are generally going to be uncomfortable about this. So I did this exercise at a conference in Buffalo, New York. And there was a group of women, they were all about 60, and they were at a table, and I set the timer, and the first one's like, oh, okay, gosh, I'll go first. And she did her 60 seconds, and then she was so relieved, and then the second lady went, she said, well, mine's not as good as yours, but here goes. And the third one, oh, you ladies, that was so good. Mine's not as good as yours. And I said, so I'm here to say, don't do that. Own your brilliance. At this conference, we rarely get to do this. Is there any question why people outside the industry don't appreciate us for what we really bring to the table? If they call you a party planner, great, but we're so much more than that. There's so much more that goes into it. And the more smoothly the event runs, the less work it looks like went into it. This is a challenge for our industry. So now, for 60 beautiful seconds, you get to brag about yourself. There are a couple rules. You cannot say, my team. It has to be I did this. And you cannot talk about your family. This is about you at work. So now, if you are willing to go first in your little group, raise your hand. Thank you, thank you. Who else? Thank you, yes. Who's going first in your group? Thank you, great. Okay, so you've established, does every group know who's going first? Okay, are you ready? Get set, brag.
feel like I could build relationships fairly quickly. I feel like I bring my company a lot of value.
Okay, time's up. Give them a round of applause. Fantastic. Okay, rotate right away to the next person. Whoever's going next, begin now. Okay, time's up. The third person in your group, begin now. The last person in your group, begin now. Okay, time's up. Round of applause for everybody. Are you surrounded by rock stars? How cool are the people in your group? Would you have ever known that? Hi, I'm Shawna, I'm from Spin, I'm from Minnesota. Oh, cold weather. Right? These people are amazing and you never would have known it. So it is important for us as event planners to make sure that everybody in the room gets a voice and everybody in the room gets to meet people. It's one of the top reasons why they came, but it's not easy for everybody. How can you do this? You can have table signs at breakfast with conversation starters on them or topics of interest. Like I could put budgets on a sign on a table at breakfast and people who want to talk about that have something in common. They can go do that. I can put, decor on another sign. There are all kinds of things depending on the demographics of your audience that you can do. You can have strategic networking at the break. You can have strategic networking at your welcome receptions. But what I like to do is for the first hour of any conference is nothing but this. Beautiful networking and conversations so people meet their 8 people right away. They feel like they have a posse that they can connect with at the conference and sit with at lunch. Nobody feels awkward. So lastly, before we wrap this up, I have one more conversation for you to have that's not timed. It's October. It's crazy. It's the middle of October. The end of the year is looming. What do you want to accomplish personally or professionally before the end of the year? Think about that for just a minute. You're going to share that with your group. What do you want to accomplish before the end of the year? Okay, begin. Okay. Any one of these topics that I've given you could fill an entire hour. You could talk budgets for an hour, I'm sure. You could talk accomplishments for an hour. So these are just samples that I'm giving you right now, samples that you can use at your own conferences, ways that you can just start conversations so that it's organic for people. But think about this as we're moving forward because, again, the importance of content, the overall importance of content is decreasing. Conversations and experiences around content are where we're headed now. It's where we need to be now. So in your meetings of the future, going forward from today, think about how you can combine a little bit of meetings 1.0, because keynote speakers are never going to go away, right? A little bit of 2.0, where there's some sort of interaction, and then a little bit of 3.0. And I think that's the perfect formula for return on attention. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.